Welcome to Unsolved Mysteries by ChillingChroniclesX. In this episode, we will be diving into the perplexing and haunting disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 was a scheduled international passenger flight that departed from Kuala Lumpur International Airport on March 8, 2014. The flight was bound for Beijing Capital International Airport, with a planned route over the South China Sea. The plane was carrying 227 passengers and 12 crew members. The passengers were from 15 different countries, with the majority being Chinese nationals. Among them were families and children, business travelers, and vacationers. The crew consisted of experienced pilots and cabin crew members. On the night of March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 disappeared from the radar while en route to Beijing. The plane vanished without a trace, leaving investigators and loved ones of those on board with a mystery that would captivate the world for years to come. In the immediate aftermath of the disappearance, search and rescue teams were deployed to the last known location of the plane, but no debris or evidence was found. The search was later expanded to cover a vast area of the Indian Ocean, but still, no concrete evidence was found. The lack of any clear explanation for the disappearance of the plane fueled intense speculation and conjecture in the media and among the public. The Malaysian government and authorities faced criticism and scrutiny for their handling of the search and investigation. In the absence of definitive evidence or an explanation for the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, various theories and hypotheses have emerged to try and make sense of the mystery. 1. Mechanical failure. One theory suggests that a mechanical failure, such as a fire or engine malfunction, caused the plane to crash into the ocean. Supporters of this theory point to the plane's sudden disappearance from radar and the lack of any distress signal from the crew as evidence of a catastrophic event. 2. Pilot error. Another theory posits that the plane's disappearance was the result of pilot error or intentional actions by the pilot. Supporters of this theory point to the flight path deviation as evidence of possible pilot involvement. 3. Hijacking. A third theory proposes that the plane was hijacked, either by terrorists or by a rogue passenger or crew member. Supporters of this theory point to evidence of the plane's sudden deviation from its intended flight path as potential indicators of a hijacking. 4. Government conspiracy. Another theory suggests that the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 was part of a larger government conspiracy. Supporters of this theory point to evidence of potential involvement by various governments and intelligence agencies in the search and investigation efforts, as well as suspicious behavior by certain individuals connected to the case. Despite the many theories and hypotheses put forth, none have been proven or conclusively supported by evidence. Some conspiracy theories have suggested that the disappearance of MH370 is linked to a broader global conspiracy involving the US government, China, or other powerful players. These theories have been fueled by the many unanswered questions and mysterious aspects of the case. For example, some have suggested that the plane was taken by the US military and flown to a secret location for unknown purposes. Others have claimed that the Chinese government was involved in the disappearance, possibly as part of a larger geopolitical power play. While there is no concrete evidence to support these theories, they continue to persist and have gained traction in some circles. They speak to a deep-seated distrust of governments and powerful institutions, as well as a desire to make sense of a seemingly senseless tragedy. Controversies have also arisen around the handling of the investigation and search efforts. Critics have accused the Malaysian government and other organizations involved of withholding information or mishandling evidence, leading to further suspicion and speculation. For example, some have criticized the Malaysian government for waiting several hours before launching a search and rescue operation, potentially losing valuable time in the effort to find the plane. Others have pointed to inconsistencies in the information released by investigators and questioned the competency of those leading the search. These controversies have fueled further distrust and skepticism, making it even more difficult to come to a definitive conclusion about what happened to MH370. The search and investigation efforts into the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 were extensive and involved multiple countries and organizations. In the initial weeks and months following the disappearance, search and rescue teams scoured the South China Sea and surrounding areas for any signs of debris or evidence. Later, as the investigation expanded to cover a wider area, search teams focused on the Indian Ocean. In addition to search efforts, investigators also combed through the backgrounds and histories of the passengers and crew members on board, looking for any clues or possible motives for foul play. Despite years of searching and investigating, no definitive evidence or explanation for the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 has been found. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 has had a profound and lasting impact on those affected by the tragedy, as well as on the aviation industry and the wider world. For the families and loved ones of the passengers and crew members on board, the tragedy has been an ongoing nightmare. The lack of answers and closure has left many with a sense of deep sadness, anger, and frustration. In the years since the disappearance, the families have banded together to advocate for greater transparency and accountability from the Malaysian government and other organizations involved in the investigation. They have also called for improvements in airline safety and security measures, in the hopes of preventing similar tragedies from occurring in the future. The aviation industry has also been forced to confront the many safety and security concerns raised by the disappearance of MH370. The incident has led to improvements in tracking technology, emergency procedures, and other aspects of air travel safety. For example, in the wake of the tragedy, the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, developed new standards for aircraft tracking, requiring airlines to report their position every 15 minutes when flying over remote areas. This has helped to ensure that planes are easier to locate in the event of an emergency. The incident has also spurred increased investment in satellite technology and other tools that can help improve safety and security in the aviation industry. This includes new technologies like automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, ADSB, which can provide real-time data on an aircraft's location, speed, and altitude. Days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months, but still there was no sign of the missing plane. The search and rescue efforts continued relentlessly, with teams from all over the world working around the clock to find any trace of the aircraft. Ships, planes, and drones scoured the vast expanse of ocean where the plane was believed to have disappeared, but the search yielded no results. As the days passed, the search became more difficult. The weather became increasingly volatile, with high winds and rough seas, making it even harder for search teams to cover the area effectively. Despite the challenges, the teams remained determined to find the missing plane. Meanwhile, the families of the passengers and crew members were left to wait and hope for news. They were living in a state of constant uncertainty, not knowing whether their loved ones were alive or dead. The waiting was agonizing, and many of them struggled to cope with the emotional toll of the situation. The media coverage of the missing plane continued to dominate the news cycle, and conspiracy theories began to emerge more and more about what had happened to the aircraft. But without any concrete evidence, these theories remained nothing more than speculation. As the search entered its fourth month, some of the search teams began to lose hope. The chances of finding any survivors were slim, and the cost of the operation was mounting. But despite the challenges, the search continued, driven by a determination to find answers and provide closure for the families of those on board. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a breakthrough occurred. A group of fishermen reported seeing what they believed to be debris from the missing plane floating in the water. The location was several hundred miles from the original search area. but the discovery was enough to reignite the search efforts. Within hours, planes and ships were dispatched to the new location, and search teams scoured the area for any signs of the missing plane. As the search continued, more and more debris was found, including pieces of the aircraft's fuselage and personal items belonging to the passengers and crew members. The discovery of the debris provided some answers, but it also raised new questions. How had the plane ended up so far from the original search area? What had caused it to crash? And most importantly, were there any survivors? As the search teams worked to piece together what had happened, the families of the passengers and crew members were given the devastating news that there were no survivors. The confirmation of their worst fears was a heavy blow, but it also provided them with a sense of closure and the ability to begin the grieving process. With the recovery of the debris, the focus of the search efforts shifted to understanding what had caused the plane to crash. Investigators from around the world were called in to assist with the investigation, and a team of experts was assembled to analyze the wreckage and try to determine what had happened. After months of analysis, the investigation team released its findings. They determined that the plane had crashed due to a combination of factors, including mechanical failure, human error, and bad weather. The report provided some closure for the families of the passengers and crew members, but it also raised questions about airline safety and the need for greater oversight and regulation in the aviation industry. Despite the lack of progress in the search, the families of those on board MH370 refused to give up hope. They formed support groups and continued to hold vigils, praying for the safe return of their loved ones. The Malaysian government also vowed to keep searching for the missing aircraft, but as the weeks turned into months, the search became increasingly difficult. The search operation was one of the largest in aviation history, involving numerous countries and an area of more than 120,000 square kilometers. The search covered both the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea, where the plane was last seen on radar. The search also involved the use of advanced technology, including underwater drones and sonar equipment. Despite all efforts, the search for MH370 yielded no results. In January 2017, the Malaysian government officially suspended the search, citing the high cost and the lack of any new information. The decision was met with disappointment from the families of the passengers and crew, who continued to hold out hope for answers. In the years since the disappearance, several theories have emerged as to what may have happened to MH370. One theory suggests that the pilot deliberately crashed the plane, while another suggests that it was hijacked and taken to a secret location. Some theories suggest that the plane may have experienced a technical malfunction or that it was shot down. However, without any concrete evidence, the mystery of MH370 remains unsolved. The disappearance of the aircraft has raised questions about airline safety and the need for improved tracking systems. In response, the aviation industry has made changes to improve safety and tracking, including the implementation of new communication and tracking systems for commercial aircraft. The disappearance of MH370 remains one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. The loss of 239 lives and the lack of answers have left a lasting impact on the families of the passengers and crew, as well as the aviation industry as a whole. The search for the missing aircraft was one of the largest and most expensive in history, involving numerous countries and advanced technology. Despite all efforts, the search yielded no results, leaving many questions unanswered. The disappearance of MH370 has led to changes in the aviation industry, with a renewed focus on safety and tracking systems. While we may never know exactly what happened to the aircraft, the tragedy has highlighted the need for continued efforts to improve airline safety and ensure the well-being of all passengers and crew. Thank you for watching this video on the mysterious and tragic phenomenon of flight disappearances. While many incidents have been solved and the causes identified, others remain shrouded in mystery, leaving us with more questions than answers. It's important to remember that every time a plane goes missing, it's not just a statistic, it represents real people with loved ones and families waiting for answers. If you're interested in learning more about this topic, there are many resources available online and in books. And if you're a frequent traveler, don't let these incidents deter you from flying. Aviation remains one of the safest modes of transportation. As always, stay safe and take care.